the World Healing Tour movement with your host, Noah Crane. Heal yourself, heal the world.
Hey everybody, my name is Lisa Ray. I'm a literary agent and I'm working with the media team here at The Grass Grows where I am, and we are so excited to bring you a co-author experience where you will grow your brand and your visibility. Click the link below and apply now for free, and we will see you inside the pages of The Grass Grows where I am.
Hello, and welcome to the World Healing Tour podcast, where our mission is to help you heal yourself so you can heal the world. Hi, my name is Noah Crane. Each week, we will bring you tips and tools and inspire you to live your most empowered and joyful life. I'm also the author of the book, The Grass is Greenest Where I Am, because the grass is greenest where you are when you say so. When you choose to live in a place of no comparison, no competition, and no scarcity. When you choose to live in your own love and light and share your unique gifts with the world. And that's what it's all about. Because when we heal ourselves, we truly help others in the world heal. It's that ripple effect we get to create. And that's why it's called the World Healing Tour. Each week, I bring incredible guests into the podcast, into studio, to pour into your life and help you on this incredible journey. I'm very excited about my guest today. Stefan Sczyrba is a commercial pilot that after a near-death experience found his true calling in life. It was an awakening. Stefan helps his clients awaken their soul potential both spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. And he loves making a difference for others and helping people truly find what their true purpose here is. So Stefan, so great to have you here. I'm so excited. Welcome to the World Healing Tour podcast.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Noah Crane. Thank you for the opportunity here.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the great work you're doing. I wanted to start by talking about the near-death experience you had and kind of give people a little bit of a backstory where you found your true calling in life.
Yeah, so I just want to clarify that I'd pursued my career as a commercial pilot many years ago, and at one point I stepped out of it. I've been out of it for the last 12 years. Uh, I wound up taking the higher road or the higher calling with my experience, and it wasn't particularly one near-death experience. It was 5 of them, and then the last one at one point I went beyond through this veil, because when we were all not as a human being but as a human soul, that when I found out that we're as a spiritual being, all of us, every single one of us, and I went through it, it really rattled me up. And it came from the emotional energies of either not good enough or whatever I was doing. There was a lot of tension, a lot of sadness. There was like, man, there's a goal here, there's something I really like to do. And there was all that stuckness underneath it that came from the friction, the family, the high expectations for everybody else. And then at one point, I had to cough up the $100,000+ for it. And at the time, I was illiterate. I didn't have any understanding of it. So when I had that 1 year death experience, when I saw the universe for what it is, I literally like left the body and I came back and I'm like, whoa.
Can
And
you
then I
tell
found
us?
out,
Can you tell us what that death experience was, just to kind of get people
yeah.
to get to
So
know a little bit more about your story?
none of us really die. So just to put that out there, we continue to live. And I used to think at one point, or going to the church system or whatever else. I mean, I grew up as a Roman Catholic system. When you leave here, we all go to heaven. And boy, did I ever get corrected that we all volunteered on behalf of the soul as a soul ambassador showing up here. And when I had that near-death experience, I'd say that in the physical term, when people can relate to that, my body, what I'm here in, stays, but it's the essence, my consciousness, what I'm thinking about, what's in my heart here, all that came with me to the other side. And what was very, very clear is the way I was thinking, my thoughts, the energies, and all the actions I had taken. My entire library for the last, say, 30 or 35 years at that time, all that energy came with me, and I was going to take that with me to wherever I was going to next. And then I got spooked by it, where I'm like, oh my gosh, like what is all this? And I simply strive towards becoming something of like what society calls as a doctor, a lawyer, in my case, as a commercial pilot. But I messed it up. I messed the whole thing up, and the gift that came out of it is at least I had the understanding or the transparency that this is real. It's not something you read out of a book. But I'm going through it, and when I came back from it, it was like, who on earth am I going to talk to about this? And I
So,
kept a lot of that quiet.
so was that a physical experience that you had, or an emotional experience, just to clear it up, or was it something like some kind of an accident that happened that brought you to that place?
No,
Mhm.
it was simply a physical experience where I was there, but it was the energy, the emotional energy that I felt. And at one point, it was almost too much. I was asked to do this, this, this. It came in from the expectations growing up from childhood, having the super high expectations. But the people that were getting there, that set the bar very high, none of them were doing it themselves. And out of frustration, they took it out on everybody else. And I'd taken a lot of it personally. And I wanted being overly responsible for everybody else. And at one point, I disregarded myself with this.
So would you say you had a breakdown?
You want to call it that? Yeah.
Hmm.
It was the body, the body. We all have limits to what the body can handle, either physically, mentally, or emotionally. And I blew through all of it many years ago, and I just said, well, I mean, you got nothing to lose. You just keep moving. So
So you had this awakening, something
yes,
happened in your life, you were in a place of a breakdown, and then the breakthrough was that there's more for you in this world. This is not exactly, it's not everything is not as it seems, right?
100%. Yes. The way I can describe it, if imagine if you have a dollar bill in your hand, and you see that one version or that one side, and I'll use me as an example. I saw that one side of that dollar bill for 30 to 35 years. That was the only side. That was the version of me that I saw.
Hmm.
As scary as it was when I left the body, I went to the other side. I found out there's a whole other side of us underneath it. And I had no clue about it.
Hmm.
I had
That's
no freaking clue.
hmm. So you were living in the three-dimensional world. Well, let's talk about the three-dimensional world and how limited it is.
Well,
And
yeah, I
that's
think you nailed it right there. It is limited. And, but there's a number of things with this.
Mhm.
I'd say personally, from my own experience, this physical 3D world that we're living in, and it's going to step on some toes here, I would call this place as an emotional cesspool.
Mhm.
And it's a place where we learn, where we grow, and it's the toughest school ground in the universe. And when a soul decides to come here, and some of the old souls or the master number type souls, when they decide to come here, they may come here every 100, 150, maybe 50 years, maybe even 1,000, maybe even 10,000 years, because the souls, they don't want to come down here. And when they come down here, they have a contract, or they have an ambassador that says who wants to show up here. So when we show up in this physical 3D world, we're dealing with the physicality of things. So things like the feelings of grief, guilt, shame, anger, sadness. And we all go through this thing normally between the ages of 5 to 9 or younger. We go through an emotional human experience. Now, what the soul is asking for is please do not be stuck by it, because it's not rational, it's not normal having experiences of dealing with it is in this physical plane with war, rape, crime, having a voice, having no voice, loss of self-confidence, divorce, separation, the freedom. I mean, for some people, they may say thinking living in one country is better than living somewhere else. It's all that gossiping, all the drama.
Mhm.
These are what I call the emotional entanglements, and this is what keeps people stuck in this physical 3D world.
Yeah, that's very well explained, right? That we are caught up in our emotions, right?
Yes,
And we are living here on this earth in this 3D world, just and there's a lot of suffering, as you were saying.
100%. Yes,
And
I would
so,
say.
mhm. Go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
No, it's okay. I want to hear what you have to say.
That's a reality of it. That's a reality. And at one point, I remember getting asked, like, Stefan, is there a heaven or is there a hell? And I said, look, we're all living in it right now. So don't wait until we leave here and you're thinking that. I'll use me as an example. I grew up in the Roman Catholic system that when you leave here, you get to go to a place called heaven, or if you're a really bad person, you go to hell. That's um, that's not really true, because it's whatever we carry with us on the inside, we carry that with us to the other side. Things are changing now that we're into the 5D energy. It used to be for many past lifetimes, if the job never got done, we leave here and then we get recycled and then we come back here back for another lifetime because the soul contract or the lower negative emotions were never properly cut.
And also this world has a lot of confusion, the 3D world, right?
Yes,
There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of brainwashing, right? Because we're brought
yes,
up to believe things in a certain way and the
yes,
way they are. Like we said, there's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of
yes,
limited beliefs, a lot of stuck energy, right? Would you say those are all things that are part of what we experience here in the physical world on a daily basis?
I think you nailed it on the head there 100%. These are all what I call well, not what I call, I think everyone can relate to it. They're all human experiences. It's from what I've got with it, I got into with what I'm doing right now because at one point, I took on the ownership or the responsibility, saying, what does it take to get out of this rat race? And that's where I pursued a career as a commercial pilot. But even then, it still didn't fulfill anything because I was still in this physical 3D world. And I found out that when we show up here, we're all coming here to cut or do the necessary shadow work. And from the soul's perspective, was to cut the agreements with mom from dad initially. Those are the toughest soul agreements. And then whatever else shows up. And without any judgment, without any blame, because we're all coming here because the family, they've all been stuck going through the same thing or the same crap. So at one point, I was very lucky enough, I took a chance on me, saying I'm going to do whatever it takes to break free of it. And I was very lucky that in my mid 30s, I met a mentor or a teacher with this, and I took it seriously. I did whatever I had to do to cut all this nonsense out.
So would you call all that nonsense generational trauma?
100%. 100%. Yes.
So our job here is not just to come here, but also how can we cut the cord with the generational trauma of our pasts, right? Of our parents' trauma, grandparents' trauma, aunts and uncles' trauma, all those traumas that we're experiencing in the physical world as that were passed on to us as well.
I'd say yes to that, and then I'm going to add a little bit of a twist to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use me as the example here. The moment I became aware of it, that it was me, that I decided, I volunteered here, like we all do, the 7 to 8 billion people that are here. I volunteered on behalf of the soul showing up here. At one point, when I took the ownership, when I took the accountability, say, I'm going to work on me first. I had to clear up my own childhood experiences, whatever I felt towards my mom, my dad, the family, the culture at one point, the religion at another point. And the moment I worked in this physical life on me, that was the first major step. Once I started clearing up all that emotional baggage and gunk, then what showed up onto the radar, because every time, like when we have a dream or we have a thought, or the same reoccurring thought or the patterns, when that plate shows up, it's the soul or the universe or the subconscious that's showing, do you want to hold on to this? And when I gutted all that crap out, then the stuff underneath of it in the foundation and the emotional foundation it's inside of us. And this is where, to answer your question on a better level, then everything came from the ancestry, from my mom, from my dad, from their family, from the ancestry, and then from the souls of many other past lifetimes. And then it's like, okay, so this is now the truth of it's out. This is what I'm coming here to do. This is what I'm coming here to clean up. And I'll use me as an example. I could have either denied it, or at one point said, up with this, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And the reason why I mention that is I had enough life experiences where I said, thank you, but no thanks. Going forward, I will do whatever it takes to break the whole thing with us.
So did you have to do a lot of, you said shadow work and inner child work?
100% for well over 8 or 9 years initially. And I took it to heart. I did whatever I had to do. I came here with a larger size soul contract, probably one of the bigger ones out, or one of the biggest ones out there, uh, as a Destiny 33-6. And I experienced things vibrationally at that level and at the 44-8 level. We can talk about that later on. And I saw that from growing up from the negative side. I kept seeing things that energetically, as a human being, when the foundation's at a low energy and you're living in this physical world, I kept aiming high. What's the point aiming high if the foundation had all these tentacles? This was the crap that kept holding me down.
Yeah, no, if the foundation is not strong, it's just going to crumble, right? So, what did you
That's
do to get that foundation strong? What are some tools you could share with us right here, right now, that people can do to start getting that foundation stronger within themselves?
certainly that's an excellent question with that because that's all the work that I do with this. The first thing is we're no longer in this third dimension. The 5D is the way that the way the universe operates, and the 4D is simply a transition from the 3D into the 5D. Having the awareness, if a person had a childhood experience, or if they remember despite the fame, the success, or the money, they're like, I still remember having that experience from childhood, or there's agreements with the sister or the mom or the dad, or there's a health concern, or inside of them, they're like, I've done things to the best of my ability. I've taken all these courses, I've taken all these lectures. I've gotten out of the back seat, kept living, and they wound up hitting like a brick wall or they hit rock bottom. I'd say it's a good thing because then at one point they're willing to do something else. In the 5Ds now, the moment they become aware of it, whatever that awareness is, that solves 90% of the issue. The 10% is you go through a proper guided healing meditation with your spiritual guides from the light, and step by step you start identifying. And the way I use it is through the numerology of it, through the month, the day, and the year. This is the way that the universe operates, and it's designed to assist people who live in an emotional world. What was the feeling back from childhood, whether it was a loss of self-confidence? Was there a feeling of being over-emotional or oversensitive, or feeling shy or hiding out? For myself, there was a fear of expressing or the fear of speaking up. And at one point, it had affected my self-confidence. And so when I came here, I didn't have that. I came here from, like we all do, from the universe in pristine condition. Unfortunately, there was an experience I got overextended from a younger age, and then at one point I had to grow up, and I had to cut all my losses with it. So whatever the awareness is, like I said, whether if it's a tough time expressing, if it's a tough time being seen, if there was no stability, the freedom from negative people, negative circumstances. I was overly responsible for everybody else instead of myself. And so things like that was a loss of trust, a loss of power, or
So, the,
whatever it is.
so, so the first step, Stefan, is to be aware that you have that going
100%.
on. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with Stefan.
Hi, I'm Chris Trammell. I'm the marketing director for The Grass Grows Where I Am, and we can't wait to work with you. And if being in this anthology book would make a difference for your brand, your visibility, and your profitability, click the link below and let's get you started. Can't wait to work with you.
And we are back with Stefan. Okay, welcome back. So we're having a great conversation here about how to start breaking that 3D emotional cesspool, as you call it, right? And start stepping into the person that you're meant to be, your true soul calling. Now, does every person have a true soul calling? Do we all have a purpose?
100%, yes. I'd say before you even get to the purpose, that's probably 3 or 4 steps or 5 steps down the pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
So the purpose is there, it's attainable, but I don't want to skip any steps of growth with this because the major thing is we're all coming here, whatever's inside of me, I had to clean it all up.
And you did that first with awareness. What was the next step?
The awareness is I had to be real with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll use me as the example. At one point, like I said, I walked away from my dream job as a commercial pilot. I had a couple of years flying in, and I said, well, I've done it. I can always go back into it. And I walked away at the time also from I had a well-paying job, and I walked away from everything. I took a step back and I trusted with the universe. And this is where I just started cultivating and having the understanding that we all have spiritual guides. And I just started connecting with them and started building that relationship. And one of the things that had buckled for me was the financial stress or the financial pressure at the time. And I had to clean all that mess up. So it's like stepping into a room and there's garbage all over the place, or there's files all over the place. And it can be like a small house, it can be a small room, or it can be a larger size building or property. And step by step, I had to take ownership of it. I just started cleaning it every square inch of it,
This,
whether it was physically, mentally, or emotionally.
so cleaning doesn't mean just cleaning your space physically. It means more
100%.
cleaning yourself within yourself and taking
100%.
ownership for everything that happened in your life so far.
1,000%. Yes.
Okay, so once you have the awareness, you could start being like, "Hey, I'm responsible. How can I start cleaning this mess?"
Yes. 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 Yes.
And I know, so I know there's different levels of being. Like you can go from the 3D world to the 3D to the 4D. Can you explain how that transition happens or what's part of the process?
Yeah, certainly. So we talked about the 3D world, the 4D or the fourth dimension. This is more tapping into, I'd say, it's a transition between the 3D into the 5D world. As I mentioned, the universe operates in the 5D. The 4D, this is where you find things like you start tapping into the spiritual realm a bit. For the living in this physical world here, this is where a lot of the emotional gunk, that we all carry at one point, when it's properly closed off, when the cords are all cut with it, and you're free and clear of it, it's like wherever you're at, it's in a state of neutrality. It's in a state of willingness. It's in an energy vibration that I feel lighter, I feel at peace, and whatever's up here for the toolbox, a lot of that mental and emotional gunk, it's all been gutted out or cleared out.
So you moved to the 4D once you cleaned up your mess, right?
Yes. It's a process, yes.
And how long do most people, in order to be able to transition into and that, well, there's a lot of thoughts that are going into my head, but being able to move from the 3D to the 4D. So you said it's awareness and being able to clean up the mess and the meditations, connecting to your guides. Is that the three things you really have to do to be able to transition?
100%. Yeah. I'd say the biggest part of it is a person willing to take a chance on themselves. Because no one else can. You can seek other people, but you're going to find all the answers inside of you, inside of yourself.
Is there
You got
still
to find.
is there still suffering in the 4D or is there less suffering?
I'd say there's less suffering, but there's a way more learning. There's way more growing with this. There's a lot of this because when we show up here, none of us are here on a picnic. We're not just coming here to work Monday to Friday or having the weekends off. We're all coming here to learn, to grow, and to ascend. And what comes through here right away, it's not a matter of going to school for a period of time and then, hallelujah, I graduated, I did my 4 years of studies, I did my apprenticeship. Because the universe or the soul on the other side, they're watching, is it personally, are they mentally, emotionally, physically, are they growing? Are they up leveling life? Or are they stuck doing the same crap? Or are they stuck in their own nonsense and their own limiting beliefs or their own way of being, and they're not willing to change? So as I stepped into the 4D, all of a sudden, all these other things would start to show up. Thoughts, patterns, old stuff from the ancestry. And it's not just this lifetime, there's many of the other past lifetimes. All that energy is being gutted out at the same time. So as you're stepping into this, you're earning that trust back with the universe. So it's either all or nothing, because the other side doesn't operate with one toe in the 3D world, another one in the 5D.
So
As long as you give.
So it's having a growth mindset in the 4D and being able to be an observer of everything. Would you say that's part of it?
I'd say a big part of that, yes. Yes. There's
And
ownership to this.
and when you're in the 4D world, are you connected to your guides? Because you said we all have guides. Let's talk about the guides. Are the guides with you? You don't really sense the guides in the 3D world, right? So much.
I think for most people that, look, when we all live in this physical world here, they're still there, but most people have no clue about it.
And how to connect to them.
Not having, yes. So the moment when I initially reached out, it's like having a friend, or it's like having an acquaintance. Every day for many years, I reached out initially to one of my 5 guides. So we have our 5 guides. We have our master guide who's there to get us back on track. And these 5 guides, they've volunteered prior to us showing up here. They volunteered to assist us while we're in this physical realm to get us back on course, because they're aware of how screwed up this place is.
Mm.
The master guide is there to get us back on track. We have a doorkeeper or a guardian angel, and this guide is there to assist us with keeping us well protected energetically, spiritually, and physically to the best of their ability. We have a philosopher guide, so for the days when we get the ideas, we get the inspiration, when we get that nugget or like that aha moment, that's coming from this guide. We also have our healer guide, which is there with keeping us healthy. And then we have our joy guide, and our joy guide is there to assist us for the days that, however we feel about things, if we're not feeling so good, then the joy guide will step in and will assist us with improving our vibration with this.
That's great. So I love the joy guide. I told you that that's a great thing to know that you have a joy guide. Everybody wants more joy, right, in their lives.
100%.
So it's amazing. So when you're able to transition into the 4D world, you have a lot more support too, and it's not like, a physical support. It's more of a spiritual support.
100%. Because none of us, despite if anyone had an experiences growing up, whether it was loneliness or abandonment or anything related to that, we're all still here with our soul.
Mhm.
Our soul's always been with us. And unfortunately, as I state that, most of humanity's been disconnected from their soul. Disconnected, it's the soul that's the life support, it's the lifeline that's keeping us alive here. And when we leave this physical realm, it's the soul that has 50% say here. Either we're staying here, the job's going to get done, or if this lifetime is being wasted with drinking or partying, we're going way off course, then the soul will shut it down and say we're going back home and we're going to start it all over again. And with that, with our guides, with the universe, it's a commitment. Like once you connect with them, it's to keep cultivating it, it's to grow with it, and it's to grow as a person with this.
Yeah, that's great. So can you tell me the difference between having guides and having God? Like, what's the difference?
Oh God. So our guides, they're always there. They take one step in front of the next step. So the foundation is everything. I see the 5 guides, the guardian angel is most essential, because that guides to ensure that the channel is always well protected. It's in the last 2 or 3 years I started connecting with God, and I like to talk about that. Unfortunately, a lot of things in this human realm have been physically perversed, twisted, or perversed. The women are going to be the biggest gatekeepers, and especially when they're connected properly, they're going to be accessing into the higher dimensions. So we're here in this physical 3D world. Our spiritual guides, they're in between the 7th or the 8th dimension, the 8th or the 9th dimension. These are different realms. God resides in the 13th dimension. The souls reside in the 12th dimension with us. God is the being of energy in some part of this multi-massive universe. We're all coming here to gain back that trust. It's God that initially got everything going with the Creator. Unfortunately, there was a lot of interference with it, and we're all coming back to, at one point, to attain that. The difference between our soul and with God, our guides have like a strong soul agreement with us. They are aware of us way more so than our parents. God's the one that's created everything. It's the creator of the life, the force, the energy, and it oversees everything. It's not just in this universe that we live in, it's the cosmos and the galaxies and beyond that. And it's the one, I'm using me as the example, it took me several years to build that trust with my guides. Once I connected properly with my guides, then that became as the basic building blocks for the spiritual realm. Then at one point being embodied with my soul, that was an experience several years ago, so 5 or 6 years ago. And then the last 2, 3 years, I started connecting with God at the higher dimensions. And God is the soul and God, they work very similar. They will assist anyone with whatever's going on. And it's not just like we go into church thinking I'm talking with God. To me, that was a load of crap because that didn't go anywhere with it. When I started connecting with God 2 or 3 years ago on the energetic or on the spiritual level, it was that one-on-one time talking with God, and it's like there's a presence, there's an energy without a word spoken, without anything said. You're like, oh boy, I'm in the presence of something here. And every day I would set that intention with connecting with God and with my soul, and then being showered with the pillar of the golden light with God's source creator and with the soul. And this is where I started to learn things about me on a deeper level. And it took a lot of, I'd say, with all due respect, it was a lot of commitment. And there was many years of doing the trials and the tribulations down here before I was able to properly connect with God. And once I reached that, then I have to keep maintaining that type of a relationship. And God's pulled me out of things that are just beyond my comprehension. Because
So, yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to share that. I say I'm not the only person. There's many other people that are doing the same thing. For many of us, we're all coming here to facilitate with whatever we need to do with it. And when that trust is earned with the other side, our guides can assist us to a certain point. Then to go above and beyond that, there's many levels of growth, and then to go like at the soul destiny or the soul potential. This is where when I started connecting with God, this is where I started to learn things at a whole new level with this.
Mhm. So
And
do
this goes beyond the capacity of what the guides can facilitate.
okay, so you connected with your guides before you connected with God.
Yes.
Okay. My question is, do your guides keep you safe?
100%.
Mhm.
The have to be the guides from the light. Yes. 1,000%, 10,000%. Yes.
And how do they do that? Do they guide you in the right direction? What's the do they whisper in your ear? How do you get the most out of being connected to your guides once you do connect?
Okay. You bring an excellent question there. I'm so glad that you're bringing that up there. Initially, it took me at least 2 or 3 years just connecting with my guardian angel. That was my experience of it. I had to feel and I had to have an understanding of what I'm working with, because when I got into this, I was clueless. I had no idea what was going on. Cultivating that relationship or cultivating that friendship, it's like any relationship or it's like anything that I'm doing here, I had to build that trust. And as I kept fostering and feeling that relationship, and at one point sensing and seeing my guides, I was lucky enough that the mentor and the teacher I was doing all the work with, he was already well connected, and I became as a very hungry student, and I did whatever I had to do. So as I connected with my guardian angel, when at times there was certain places where I was working at or I was going out and doing my thing, I could sense or feel the energy. And if it felt good, it was great. And if it didn't feel so good, I get a hint or I get the feeling on the inside, Stefan, it's time to get out and go somewhere else. And that feeling came from my guardian angel. Or there was days where if I knew that if I was being energetically attacked, because it's an inside feeling. When I started stepping into the spiritual world, I had a few spiritual attacks getting into this many years ago, and I called upon my guardian angel, and all that stuff got cleared out.
Mhm.
So certain experiences like that, the universe would put up there either as a test or as a learning to see how well would I adapt to it, how well would I learn with it. And I just said, okay, thank you for the school lesson for today. Let me sit with this for a bit. And then step by step, every day or every week, something else would show up. And I kept building and nourishing this relationship. Because it's not so much with my guardian angels to ensure that my channel is heavily protected. My master guide was there to get me back on course, because at one point I was way off course. So then my master guide is doing whatever they can on that side to get me back on track. And then from there, they would show me the groups or the environments I need to be in to grow as a person. And then they would show me the energies from childhood that I swept underneath the rug from mom or dad or anybody else. And then they would show or guide me, saying, now look, Stefan, while you're physically here, this is the next mess that you need to clean up. Then my healer guide would assist with doing all the healing work. The philosopher guide would assist me with any of the downloads or any of the aha moments, or like, oh my God, I'm learning this. I have this type of an insight. Or from cleaning up all this mess, now all of a sudden I start becoming aware of what was it inside of me that was stuck? Why did I have a tough time expressing? Why did I feel stuck? Why was there so much resentment? And I would start getting all these epiphanies or all these downloads. And for the days where I'd struggled or I was just like, man, this was a rough week, my joy guide would step in and I'd feel lighter about it. And I'd say, okay, today's a new day. And I would keep going on with that. And I developed and fostered that relationship for many, many years. And it's only been in the last several years they've retired and they're out somewhere else doing their own thing.
So would you say they retired because you're more complete within yourself?
I was very lucky with the mentor that I've done the work with here. I'm still here with my guardian angel, with my doorkeeper. There's one thing about me that I'm a very, very hungry, or I'm a very, very driven person. And we're in this 5D consciousness, and I'm not, I want to make this very clear here. It's not that, hey, look at me, look at what I've done with this. The message that I'm giving with this is this is attainable for anyone and anyone. If you're hungry enough and if you're driven enough, you get the same thing.
Mhm.
I'm expressing this because I met this teacher here. He showed up here 100 years ahead of time to awaken the old souls. So I was gifted a phenomenal opportunity with this. That's a key ingredient with that. And when I started becoming aware of many things, look, from every lifetime, I've been here for technically 495 lifetimes. The soul agreement or the soul contract never got done. I mean, it was to closing up all the negative emotional entanglements, all the crap, all the shit that was buried underneath of it. I gave it my 100 or 200% with my guides, and then at one point when the foundation was gutted out, it was cleared out, and it was like, wow, I went all out with this. Then my guides are like, okay. Then they report back to the soul, which is the soul's one that's keeping us alive, keeping me alive. Then the soul's like, hallelujah. Now Stefan, me as a soul ambassador, my inside vessel is clean enough. Now the soul's got a place to call home. And I went all out with it for a few more years after that. And then at one point, I remember I came home the one day, I cleared out the feeling of guilt from some other level. And the crown chakra opened up, and then my soul came in. I'd say it was my light being, which is a part of my soul and embodied inside of my physical being, right through the heart chakra, through the solar plexus, and then I went down through both my hands or both my shoulders down to my hands. And this is where the eyelids opened up here for the healing, and then down through the bottom to the bottom of my feet. And I mean, that was 7 or 8 years ago with that. And there's many levels to that. And from there, we just continue to grow and evolve. It's whatever a person can physically handle in this world.
It's very deep, deep work, right? But
It is.
but what we want to do is get to the 5D world, right?
Ideally, it's here for everyone, yes.
Let's talk about transitioning from the 4D world where you're already in a place of self-growth and cleaning up your mess and being responsible for how you show up. And let's say you're ready now to go to the 5D level, which is the next level. Let's talk about what is the 5D level and how important is it to reach that point.
I'd say I mean, personally, everything I'm sharing here is super important. There's many people, I say there's probably millions of people that are already stepping into the 5D, which is an absolute blessing. There may be 100,000 people on this physical plane right now that are eligible of being embodied, being fully in the 5D. And I'm going to say that again. Of the 7 to 8 billion people that are here, give or take, maybe 100,000 are fully into the 5D. We have a thing called pinkies, and it's whatever we hold on to emotionally, whatever that resistance is on the inside. If you'd like to elevate into the 5D completely, the stepping in from the 3D into the 4D is an accomplishment on its own, especially if you come in here as an old soul, as a master member. Stepping into the 5D, this is where it's not so much about the thinking, but it's not about being in the heart. And the heart's the most important compound with this, or the most essential ingredient, because the heart's connected directly to the soul. Thankfully, it's the only chakra that cannot be tampered with. And the most important ingredient with this is self-love, personal ownership, personal accountability, and personal responsibility with this. Those 3 or 4 ingredients are vital and essential of being in the 5D. And when you're stepping into this, I'd say more so with the 4D, this is where a person's going to be tested to see what is it from the 3D that they still need to cut or clear out. And as a person elevates into the 5D, you can go way from the 5D and way higher. Depends on how well a person can physically maintain their energy, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And then from there, this is where you can start doing other things like time travel, doing the advanced type of meditations, and simply to embody with your identical self in the light, improving your own life with it. It's like being in the 5D. You're always learning, you're always growing. I'd say the coolest part is like going to university all the time, but without paying for it. And it's something that you earn with the universe. And it's to grow as a person with this. And at any time, I'm using me as an example because right now there's many things I'm going from the 5D into the 4D, back to the 5D. Some days I go a little higher, some days I go down a bit. And it is really a place of being in the heart, because the heart itself, it has an understanding, or it has a depth where I'd say, I'm saying from my own experience, it's at least 50, I'd say, if not maybe 100,000 times stronger than the mind in terms of the way that it senses or feels with things. And the self-love being in the 5D is most essential, because with this is where you start activating your higher powers with this. Those higher powers, you need to be vibrating at a higher energy, and that higher energy is involved in things like love, joy, and peace. And it's not like, for some people, I'm using me as an example. I came from certain rough experiences growing up, and you're not going to go from the bottom of the consciousness map all the way to the higher dimensions. So we all have our high days and low days. The 5D is a beautiful place. It's a place of peace, joy, love, and it's a feeling. It's a feeling on the inside. When you have that feeling, no one can take it away from you.
Is
You're
it?
tapping the creative elements, and you're in your flow state, doing whatever you're doing
Yeah. So, but you can fluctuate between the 3D, the 4D, the 5D, right?
all the time. Yes, because we're all earning that. We're earning it. I'm
Mm.
saying as me as an example, we're earning it. If you stop it, if you say, "Oh, I'm comfortable with this," then you can slide down that consciousness scale very, very quickly.
Mm. Yes, they say yesterday's transformation is like tomorrow's ego trip, because you're like, oh, I know it all. I don't need to learn anything. And
Good
that's
luck.
where you get in your own way and self-sabotage, your own stuff. But when you're able to be in a place of the 5D, where you're really connected to your heart, when you're in a place, like you said, of flow, more of connection, of joy, of peace, of happiness, whatever is in the 5D, is there no suffering when you're there?
Technically, no,
Mhm.
no,
So your job is to stay in the 5D so that you could live in the 3D world, but not have the effect of the 3D world.
100%. Because we're still here, even as we're elevated into the 5D. Physically, as we're looking around, it will stay as a 3D world for a while. It may take. It depends on how quickly they open up the disclosure, the technology. It may take another 2 or 3 lifetimes in order to physically have it into a 5D world. What I can say is it's 2025. I'd say for the last 14 to 15 years plus, the energy was already introduced here completely and globally, that this place has now been embodied with the 5D consciousness, the 5D energy. And this has been one of the few remote places in the universe where they've done this with the entire planet all in one shot. So we're in this physical 3D, so we're living in a physical 3D world, but we're also in this 5D consciousness energy. And it's going to take some time to adjust for both the physical and the energy to merge together properly. And for those that can vibrate higher, you're going to be in the sixth, seventh, or eighth dimension, or whatever else with that.
And does that give you a lot more access to, you know, reaching your purpose in life?
100%. 100%. I want to mention that with the purpose or the persons and destiny, it's not like you just aim and high for it. It's something that's. I'll use me as an example. I've awakened the mastery of what I'm here to be doing. I've awakened it. Am I living at 100%? No way. It's something I'm learning, I'm earning, and I'm educating myself with on a day-to-day basis. And it's to see authentically inside of me, how well can I handle this? How well can I handle these tests, or how well can I integrate with all this?
It's a real investment in yourself.
10,000%.
Mhm.
Yes.
And it's no, like, there's no immediate gratification, because I know in the 3D world we want the immediate gratification, it seems like in the higher realms, you have to learn to be patient.
Yes. Yes.
And it's that the consistency of, you know, learning to love yourself, believe in yourself, connect to yourself, trust that there's a bigger picture in this whole universe that will help you get to a better place in your life. So you're no longer affected by the everyday minushkas of gossip and hate and anger and resentments and fears.
Yes. You nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you nailed it right there. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Great. So let's talk about you. And we did a beautiful meditation last night. We had a great conversation, and you took me through a beautiful meditation, and I was totally immersed in it. I loved it. Let's talk about how you help people do their work to be able to close, because we talked about being able to close your contract here, right? Closing those, looking into the Akashi
Yes.
records. Let's talk a little bit about that and how you help facilitate that for people.
Yeah, certainly. Personally, for me, I don't use much of the Akashic records at all, because that's now, personally for me, that's now null and void or obsolete. With what I do there is I ask the person, what is it that's vibrating, or what's vibrating on the inside? What's the feeling inside the feeling on the inside? I'll use me as an example. There's many days when I was going forward with it, I could either feel the feeling of nervousness or intimidation, or was I really confident, or was there a lack of self-confidence, or was there a fear of expressing my own truth? Because everything comes down to a feeling. And at one point, I had masked it all. I had masked it as, look at me, I'm here as a commercial pilot, or I had a six-figure job at one point, and that was the artificialness of it. So when things affected me on a health level, where I knew at one point I was going to be really sick with things, either with having a stroke or a heart attack at one point, I said, I need to grow up and I need to clean up all the mess here. So what I facilitate is from the start to finish is to assist people with initially having the introduction, with being introduced to their soul blueprint. We take their name, their date of birth, we come up with a soul blueprint with this, and then we start identifying the major things. What was the influential learning? What did you experience from that? Then we list off a number of the vibrations, the number of the emotional energies, and then it gets a person thinking about it. And once they become aware of it, then they're like, oh my God, I'm living in this physical 3D world, and I never had an experience where the stability sucked. I desperately needed my freedom. I should have been expressing a lot more, but whatever happened, I didn't say much, and I had to be in my leadership. And for me, having those few words I mentioned there or rattled off there was all the information that I needed with it. Then once it became having that awareness, then I would start doing step by step the initial meditation guides, where I'd start connecting. I'd be in my physical body. I'd go into my private island. I'd be connected with my guides, and whether at the time I saw them or not didn't matter. And then whatever I needed to process or integrate with it, then I just take the physical ownership and the physical accountability, saying, wow, this feeling and that feeling, this feeling came up. And then through the meditation, we started clearing everything out. Now, the meditations that I facilitate, I'm able to go very, very deep with this. And it's not like we're taking things out by the teaspoonful. The meditations that I facilitate, we go in with the massive front end loader. We're going all the way in, all the way down, and then getting out as much as with what a person can handle. Because in this 5D consciousness, the older technologies are now obsolete. We're integrating into a brand new energy, a brand new consciousness. This is coming from my soul, this, and it is beyond the human comprehension, the human understanding. And technically, as we're doing the meditations, to clear out everything, stuff from the childhood experiences. You can go back to the youngest inner child, whatever shows up. Then energetically, we go into the fetus, all the programmings, all the limitations from mom, from dad, from the ancestry. We take everything up from the childhood experiences up to today, and including the other major interferences are the culture and the religion and the soul's many other past lifetimes. So we're taking that all out in one feeling, and when we're taking out that whole energy of it, it might be on the one feeling called shame. Then we give it a week, then we do another feeling, the feeling of guilt. Because in every lifetime, we all have suitcases full of that experience of either feeling humiliated, feeling shunned at, either laughed at, silenced, either privately, publicly, within the family. And this, every one of us goes through it. And if you haven't gone through it, maybe a person's been under a rock all this time.
Stefan, would that also include rejection?
Everything.
Mhm.
Shame, guilt. I love the way that you're describing it. And if we'll use this as an example, Noah. Let's say all of a sudden you say, Stefan, I had felt the feeling of rejection.
Mhm.
And the first thing I want to ask them is, do you want to hold on to it or do you want to let it go?
Mhm.
That's it.
Yeah, rejection was a huge thing in my life, right? And I even wrote a book, and I have in it a chapter called The Gift of Rejection, right? Because not only do we get rejected by people, we also learn to reject ourselves sometimes. So I love that you take people back into themselves. It's almost like therapy, right? But it's different, where you're going back into the past and back into things that you experienced, and then finding the power through it to recreate it into something, by finding your guides and finding a way to connect better
Mhm.
and have more support on this journey.
Again, yes, and I'd like to add to that, please.
Mm-hmm.
When that feeling shows up, this thing behind our eyes, between our ears, the subconscious, it's a mess. It's physically like an organ, but energetically, this is like a massive supercomputer. And what we're looking for is the initial trigger, the initial boiler point from childhood or deeper. Once you pull out that bottom feeling, whatever that bottom trigger was, once you pull enough of that gunk out, all the emotional energies that were stacked on top of it, whether it was rejection, pride, anger, frustration, jealousy, whatever was stacked on top of it, all of it gets cleared out in one go. And
That's
it's the spiritual
amazing.
guides from the light that assist with having all that stuff cleared out, and they take it back to the Akashic records and they wipe it all out.
That's incredible. So you're able to close your soul contract in this lifetime and not have to come back to this world?
In an ideal world, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I've been spearheading for the last several years of this, yes.
That's incredible. So, Stefan, how do people connect with you, find you? Because we are running out of time. Time's going so fast.
Certainly.
And I love this conversation. We'll have to do it more. But how do people connect with you?
Yeah, they can find me through emotionalsoulhealing.com, or they can send an email at info@emotionalsoulhealing.com. You can find me through TikTok, LinkedIn, and send a message or an email and be happy to connect from there.
That's great. And you will work with them if they're interested. Do you do like an initial call to see if there's a fit for you? Do you do like a discovery call?
I do offer that, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here for everyone. I'm here as one of the high caliber healers. Uh, the work that I do is black and white, but it's designed to fast track and clear up as much of the mess as possible, because we don't have a lifetime to do this anymore. We're all coming here to rapidly close things, and then boom, out to the gate. We come in here to do something else.
Yeah, I love that. Is there any last words you want to say before we end this conversation?
I'd like to thank you, Noah, very, very much for having me here for today. Big thank you for that. In closing, for me, this is one thing I'd really like to share. I'm very, very passionate about this. I genuinely care about this. What I'd really like for your audience, or for those that are listening to this, at one point, the time is going to go by. And if you think it's too late, I've worked with people in their 70s. They've cleared everything out. They're now in their leadership and they're rocking and rolling with this. People in their 30s that were suicidal, they lost their first kid or their first child. We had all that type of energy. These are an experience, and all the stuff's been cleared out. And the summary of it is, the universe will give anyone a second opportunity to turn their life around if they're willing to put in the work. You're not going to graduate after the first week or the second week attending a 4-year apprenticeship or schooling at the university or such. It doesn't work like that. It's something that's earned. And the most important part here is, at one point, when you have it where you attain having a peaceful soul closure, that's the most amazing thing you can ever give to somebody else. That's with having the emotional entanglements cut, everything from the family, childhood experiences, culture, religion, and from the soul's many past lifetimes. When that's closed, and you have that peaceful soul contract, whatever needs to be cut, you can be living a whole new and a brand new wondrous life. And we're stepping into this 5D golden era. There's a lot of opportunities to come. And when you're prepared for it, when you're ready with that in your hand, you're going to become unstoppable.
That's freedom right there. Freedom. Give
Hallelujah.
yourself that freedom to truly, be able to reach any goal that you want. And it's never too old, right? It's never too late. You're never too old. The only one that's ever in your way is you. As long as you're alive, you can go ahead and heal and become and do the work you need to do here. So thank you, Stefan, so much for this. It was a great conversation. And I really enjoyed our time together.
Thank you, Noah. Likewise. Thank you.
I want to thank you for joining us today on the World Healing Tour podcast. I created this incredible jewelry to remind you every day of doing 3 things every day. Practice these 3 elements. Number 1, every day remember to have a grateful heart and connect to your gratitude. Number 2, every day remember to ground in love and compassion, first for yourself, and then learn to share that compassion and love with others in the world, because we all want more love and compassion. And number 3, remember every day that you're not alone on this journey. It's a guided journey. I say I'm guided by God, higher power, universe, your guides, whatever it is. Know that every day you're a guided. The 3G Effect Jewelry, you go ahead to noahcrane.com and you could see all the beautiful pieces that I created to anchor in those 3 important elements into your life. Till next time, everybody have a beautiful week. Namaste. Hi, this is Noah Crane. I'm excited to share this anthology book with you, The Grass Grows Where I Am. So just join us and be a part of this incredible book to help bring your message and influence into the world. We're excited to showcase what you do to make this world better. Click the link below. The World Healing Tour Movement with your host, Noah Crane. Heal yourself, heal the world.